All right, finally, our number one receiver in college football heading into the 2024 season should not be a shock to anyone, Dalton. It is Luther Burden III, LB3, out of Missouri. I'm not sure anyone calls him LB3, Dalton, but I kind of love the sound of it right there, so we're going to give it to him on the show right now. But Luther Burden III, what makes him so special?
It's just a special ability with the ball in his hands, and his feet are amazing. He's got incredible speed, right? Just efficient. Look, third in receiving grade, third in yards after catch, seventh in yards per route run, 99.9 deep grade. And I think actually my favorite part, only two Power 5 receivers had top 10 grades against man and zone coverage. Luther Burden and Malik Neighbors.
Ooh.
That's it. So when you're talking about outside of Malik Neighbors, this guy was the best receiver in the SEC, right? Just special in the screen game, in the deep game. And his freshman year, he only had 250 yards. Like before they had Kirby Moore, they didn't really know how good this guy was. And Kirby Moore obviously came in there and said, this kid is special. I need to base my whole offense around him. So in the screen game, he's lethal. He can take a screen 60, 70 yards, however far you want. 24 missed tackles last year, and that's 15th in the country, and he could be in for more this year. You've comped him to Deebo Samuel. I think it's totally justified, and I think he might even be a better deep threat than Deebo was back at South Carolina and now with the Niners, right? He's just a special player between his feet and his ability with the ball in his hands after the catch. He's really a guy schematically who you can do anything. You can do anything with, whether it's inside, outside, deep, short, anywhere in between. Kirby Moore's got, to me, and some elements of his offense have a little bit of Sean McVay passing concepts in there too. Get him on deep overs. Anything you want to do with Luther Burden, you can do it because he's that talented.
Absolutely. And honestly, dude, he might be even more of a complete receiver than Deebo is, honestly, with the way he can win downfield, and his hands are really good as well. I mentioned the Deebo comp is really because of how dominant he is after the catch. He had, like you said, 725 receiving yards after the catch, third among all receivers in the country, 314 receiving yards after contact, fourth most among all receivers in the country. Only dropped 4 of his 94 catchable targets this past year. He also caught over 56% of his contested targets. He could actually go up and get it a lot better than you might expect for a yak receiver like him. Was targeted on nearly 33% of his receiving snaps this past year, which is the highest rate among Power 5 receivers. Scored in the 96th percentile in our GAS metric, our game athleticism score metric, which measures how fast you are, your change of direction, all that, which obviously is extremely high. Ran over 22 miles per hour, almost 23 miles per hour this past year. 22.6 was his max speed this past season. So really athletic player, can really go up and get it, and he's absolutely ridiculous after the catch with really good hands as well. What are the negatives, though, Dalton, that you see with Luther Burden III?
I got to be honest. I think he's just got to stay healthy for an entire season, and we can see what he can do with 12, 13, 14 full games, because he did tweak his hamstring in the Kentucky game, and I think only had 2 catches maybe for 15 yards in that game. And the production slowed a little bit in the second half of the year. And Missouri, to their credit, Kirby Moore and Eli Drinkwitz, they adjusted, ran the football more, riding Cody Schrader down the stretch, and then using a lot more play action and things like that. I think Burden just needs to stay healthy for the entire year. And even in a year where he was a little bit hampered the second half, over 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns and a 91 receiving grade, he really could have had a Malik Neighbors type of stat line if he was 100% down the stretch instead of maybe 80 or 85. So I don't see a ton of flaws. I think probably the route running could be a little more consistent, because you see him often playing as more, there's sometimes where he's more athlete than receiver, but even then it's I think we're nitpicking, man. I think when you're talking about this guy, you've got an elite level athlete. You mentioned the 96th percentile GAS score. That's right in the same neighborhood as a Roma Dunze or a Brian Thomas Jr. So these are the types of first round guys you're talking about. Burden is so special with the ball in his hands, and he could be, the speed is special. The intermediate route running is probably one for me.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about how good he is with his speed downfield and how good he is in the screen game and picking up yards after the catch, that's a detail that just has to get added in to make him look that much more complete. For me, just stay healthy and you could be in line. Especially, I think about, too, with Missouri's potential as a team. They had the 8th best receiving core in the country last year. And yet, Luther Burden's clearly clearly the best player of that group and the biggest reason why they are ranked that high. And there's a ton of talent. I think something we're going to get into later in the summer is how darn good Missouri's receiving core and their passing game is going to be. But Burden's the engine to the whole thing. He's so special, and there's no reason to think, unless he hurts himself or something, that he shouldn't be a first-round pick next year. There's nobody better in the country right now at receiver with the ball in his hands than Luther Burden.
No, absolutely not, man. And I think they returned their top 5 receivers from last year too. They returned a lot of production in that Missouri receiving core. I think the route running is the one thing, man. And there's a lot of times where it looks like he's kind of going half speed on his routes, which, for some other receivers, it seems like an effort issue. I don't really think it's that. I think he's kind of maybe thinking too much as a route runner out there. And he's not really asked to do all that much in terms of a route runner at Missouri, which when you translate to the NFL, that'll be more of a problem for him. But yeah, over the last 2 years, he's in the 29th percentile of receivers in terms of separation rate against single coverage at about 50% open target rate against single coverage. So I think obviously as a route runner, it can be improved so he could run more full speed in his routes, because even on routes where he's targeted, it looks like he's running a little half speed out there. So yeah, I think he's maybe thinking too much as a route runner. I want to see him get more developed as a route runner. But basically, other than that, man, not really much to complain about at all with him. I think his intermediate route running, like you said, is what probably I want to see him develop the most in, because I think he can win downfield, and he obviously can win in the short and screen game, obviously, with how good of a yak receiver he is. As an intermediate route runner, though, I think there's certainly a lot to work on there. But other than that, I mean, he is truly a special receiver. That's why he comes in as our number 1 receiver in college football entering the 2024 season.